What's up, guys? In this video we're going to talk about Rhodiola Rosea, which is an herb in the adaptogen class. This is not medical advice. I am not a doctor, so legally I'm not allowed to give you medical advice. Take any of these substances at your own risk. And also, in the description of this video, there are affiliate links. So if you do decide to purchase any of these, I will receive a commission from it. So keep that in mind. However, all of that said, in this video, I'll be going over the scientific benefits or the benefits of Rhodiola Rosea that have been, I guess, proven by science or mostly proven, if you can actually prove anything these days. But that's another argument for another time. So I'm not a doctor. I get paid if you guys buy any of this stuff through my affiliate links. And also, finally, technically, do you need supplements? No, you don't need anything. You need food, water, and sleep to survive. However, I believe personally that taking supplements will improve your health, and I chose Rhodiola Rosea to be my first video on this channel because it's a great keyword, and also it's actually very good. So I have actually taken this. First, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the science of rhodiola, and then I'm going to tell you my actual experience with this because I've taken many bottles of this stuff and I think it is a-okay. So, Rhodiola Rosea is an herb in the Rhodiola genre or genera. And basically, in the past, people have used this as an anti-fatigue agent. And as I mentioned before, it's in the adaptogen class, I guess, of herbs. So adaptogens are basically substances that will enable your body to adapt to whatever stress is going through. That's how they've been explained to me. Specifically, though, rhodiola, I've noticed, or the main benefits seem to be that it's an anti-fatigue agent and it helps improve your mood. So if you find yourself like very run down, very exhausted most of the time, it's helpful, or it can be helpful to reduce your fatigue. So what are the main benefits? As stated here, is that it appears to be able to significantly reduce fatigue and, quote, burnout that come from stress and anxiety. There's lots of studies on this. Numerous trials suggest meaningful effects, specifically with people that have stress and or anxiety issues. So in addition, this also seems to apply to exercise as well. Like, you will get a better workout if you take rhodiola. And specifically, if you take it before a workout, it'll reduce fatigue, which will arguably increase your overall work capacity. Also, this also has uses potentially as a neuroprotective agent against toxins. This does require a little bit more evidence, more studies on this, but it says here that ingestion of rhodiola or its active component can reduce stress-induced binge eating in female rats. So any of you that have some sort of binge eating disorder, which is basically everybody who lives in the West, let's be honest, you have access to unhealthy food. Chances are you've binged before and you've had that time where you just lunge for the cookies and you're like, screw it, I'll start my diet on Monday. It's possible that taking rhodiola will help to minimize that. May have some appetite suppressing effects as well. All right, so let's take a look at so the dosage here. It says that usage of rhodiola as a daily preventative against fatigue has been reported to be effective in doses as low as 50 milligrams. If I recall correctly, so you have generally two types of rhodiola that are sold, or any sort of herb really. Is you can either buy the actual herb itself that's ground up into a powder, or you can buy an extract or a combination of the herb and the extract itself. So what the extract is that they identify the active compound in whatever it is, whatever the herb is, and they will provide the supplement with a lot of that extract. So generally the extract is more powerful, quote unquote, but because you're only taking the active compound, there might be other benefits to taking the actual herb itself that people just haven't discovered or haven't studied yet. So sometimes people will buy the combination. It's kind of just up to you. I've taken both and I've found both to be effective. As rhodiola has been shown to have a bell curve response before, it's not recommended to exceed the dose of 680 milligrams, as higher doses may be ineffective. So 680 milligrams, that's a lot. You're not going to take that much. I think the normal dose in a pill is around 250. And trust me, like you take one and they lights you up like a Christmas tree. Okay, so let's dig now into the scientific evidence. The first thing we're going to go over is a reduction in fatigue, and there seems to be a fairly considerable reduction in fatigue from 14 studies. Very high consistency in the research results. So it says here the decrease in fatigue appears to be fairly strong and quite reliable when a low dose is given over a prolonged period of time or a high dose is given acutely. There are studies that have found an increase in fatigue, and one found that it depended on the method of measuring fatigue. So it's possible that results, while generally positive, will be variable. So again, like I said, speaking from personal experience, definitely noticed a reduction in fatigue when I was working in sales. A couple of years ago is when I tried it in New Zealand. I would notice that on days where I was feeling a little bit burnt out, I would take it and it would give me like immediate refreshment, I guess is what I could describe it as. Like I'd be exhausted from the entire week. Actually, I would take it on my days off now that I think about it. I'd work 6 days a week, and then on my day off, normally what I would do is I would just be exhausted all day, and just like my girlfriend and I would take a day off together, and I would just be totally wiped the whole day. But when I would take rhodiola, I would find that it was almost like I had taken a day off before and was very refreshed. The second benefit here, this is from 4 studies, is a notable improvement in cognition. And it says that notably effective assuming fatigue is being reduced. So basically the idea here is that, is it really an improvement in cognition, or is it that you're reducing the fatigue to such a degree that cognition is reduced as a byproduct, right? You're less tired, so you're able to think better, right? Is that how the cognition is boosted, or is it some other mechanism that's boosting cognition? Not really sure, but the point is that it does boost cognition. Next one is subjective well-being. There's a minor boost in that. I can attest to that as well. It does kind of make you feel good, just very slightly though. And this is from 5 studies. The trend seems to suggest that it can improve subjective well-being secondary to a reduction in fatigue. One study found a reduction in self-ratings of suggestive well-being and potentially an increase in fatigue. So one thing about rhodiola is that there is some conflicting evidence where 1 or 2 of the studies, or a small number of the studies, found an increase in fatigue. Personally, again, like I said, I'm just one person. I've never experienced an increase in fatigue from taking it, and I would run myself very hard from work. So that's just me. A minor increase in attention. It says that research mostly points to a small effect, though evidence isn't particularly reliable or robust. This is from 4 studies. So this again could be due to the reduction in fatigue, similar to the boost in cognition. You reduce fatigue, so it enables you to pay closer attention to whatever you're doing. I would say it's a far cry from things like, Adderall or Ritalin. You're not going to get that like ADD medication type focus from something like this. You might notice a small increase though, but I wouldn't say it's like great for studying. Maybe for you, I don't know, your mileage may vary. I generally think it's better for like exercise. C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein, I want to say, is something that is responsible for inflammation in the body. And there's a minor reduction in C-reactive protein. It says a decrease in C-reactive protein has been noted with rhodiola supplementation. Practical significance of these results is unknown. Minor decrease in depression, and this is very highly consistent across 7 studies, or it says very highly consistent, and then it says evidence is fairly mixed. So, take that for what you want, I guess. Evidence is fairly mixed, but generally supports a reduction, but more studies in major depression are specifically needed to judge its efficacy. So the idea with like reducing the depression is like, if you think about it, and again, like I said, I'm not a doctor by any means, but picture a depressed person. They have low energy, they're tired, they're just kind of mopey overall, right? That's kind of the visual that you get from them. So if you know anybody who's depressed, or if you've been depressed before, you just kind of feel too tired to do anything. You just don't have that physical energy, right? So by reducing fatigue, it could indirectly reduce depression, right? So try it, I guess. The thing with herbs is that you take them on the first day and you feel amazing, and then taking it, like the effect kind of balances out after that. Overall, is it better to continue taking it? Try it, but it might be just what you need to kind of kickstart yourself to get yourself out of some sort of funk that you're in. Next one is a decrease in lactate production. So that's just from one study. It's a minor decrease. That's relevant to you, I'm not really sure. A minor decrease in muscle damage. And this is across 3 studies, and it says it's able to reduce circulating levels of creatine kinase following exercise. So I'm not actually sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Muscle damage, I'm not sure if they're referring to like the damage you do to your muscles after you work out, or if this is some sort of like toxic byproduct of exercise that's not actually good in some way. I'm not really sure about that, so don't quote me on that. A minor increase in processing accuracy. So, and it says, this is just from one study, increases in processing accuracy are likely secondary to reductions in fatigue. So again, it seems to be that most of the benefits from rhodiola are from an a decrease in fatigue. So if you're fatigued, most people are, I would say, if you're living a modern life, you're not just sitting around all day doing nothing, or even if you are sitting around doing nothing all day, you're probably fatigued. So it might help you. A minor reduction in stress. It says that rhodiola is responsible for a small reduction in subjective ratings. It seems to be fairly consistent, though the evidence is not particularly robust. Rhodiola has no effect on blood pressure. Rhodiola has no effect on heart rate. That's across 4 studies. Rhodiola has no effect on lipid peroxidation. That's across 3 studies. And it seems like, okay, so here we go. So rhodiola has a minor effect, an increase in aerobic exercise capacity. Very preliminary evidence suggests a slight improvement in time to completion and time to exhaustion on cycle ergometer tests. So it's 2 studies. Again, everything seems to come back to reducing fatigue, being responsible for all of these like peripheral benefits. Rhodiola is responsible for a minor increase in alertness. Again, you could argue this is coming back to the reduction in fatigue. I found it very helpful when I worked in sales. I generally did not take it on days where I went to work to sell because I preferred to save it for my one day of being off so I could, not be totally wiped and like have fun with my girlfriend basically. And like, we would like go out and do stuff. So yeah, but I do remember taking it a few times and I would experience a little bit of an increase in alertness. A minor increase in antioxidant enzyme profile. So one study found an increase for rhodiola in superoxide dismutase in healthy participants. So I'm not sure what superoxide dismutase is. I'm assuming that that is like some sort of antioxidant metabolite. Like antioxidants are responsible for creating this superoxide dismutase. Oh no, so that's actually, okay, so that's an antioxidant enzyme. Yeah, so I guess that's an antioxidant enzyme that is responsible for alleviating oxidation in your body. Minor increase in antioxidant potential. Rhodiola is responsible for increases in total antioxidant capacity of blood. These have been noted in one study. Rhodiola reduces anxiety to a minor degree. Reductions have been noted in studies on people suffering from stress-induced burnout and those with mild anxiety. So similarly to how it reduces fatigue, when you have a lot of energy, so it's 2 things. It doesn't just reduce fatigue, it reduces fatigue, but there's a slight mood enhancing quality to it in my experience. You just have a lot of energy and you feel kind of good about how much energy you have. It's kind of hard to explain. That is anecdotal from my perspective, but that is what I experienced when I took it. Rhodiola has a minor reduction in blood lactate. So there's mixed evidence on that. And the study that found a reduction found it during submaximal exercise. So I'm not actually sure what blood lactate is. I'm assuming that it has to do with lactic acid in the muscles during exercise. So that would imply, if that is correct, a potential, like you could potentially exercise for longer because the lactic acid in your muscles is not building up at the same rate. It's building up at a reduced rate compared to baseline. So that could be beneficial to some people. Now the next one, there is one study that showed that rhodiola had a minor reduced growth hormone to a small degree. It says that one study found a small reduction directly after exercise, but not before or over the course of 24 hours. So over 24 hours, the total production of growth hormone remained the same, but acutely after exercise, there was a minor reduction. So I'm not sure what the significance of that is, but if the overall, if over the course of 24 hours there's no difference, you could make the argument that it's not really that big of a deal. A minor reduction in interleukin 8. One study noticed a reduction during a marathon. Interleukin 8, I want to say, is a marker for inflammation. Could be wrong on that, but obviously when you are running a marathon, it's very stressful activity. Running 26 miles, that's not easy. And if you are reducing inflammation during that time, one could make the argument you would be able to run more efficiently during that time. Minor increase in libido. A small improvement in people suffering from burnout was noted in one study. So again, this could potentially be related to the idea or to the concept of like the reduction in fatigue, right? You have more energy, so your libido could potentially go up because you just have more energy overall to do anything. Kind of goes back to the whole idea of like an adaptogen, right? It's not, the idea is that like you reduce fatigue, which enables your body to adapt and fill in the gaps of all these other areas like pain, like increase in attention, cognition, libido, things like that. That's generally how I've understood adaptogens to work. A minor increase in lymphocyte count. This seems to be the same study on marathon runners where rhodiola, people took rhodiola. Marathon runners who took rhodiola found less of a reduction during a marathon than placebo. Lymphocytes, not really sure what lymphocytes are. I want to say those are something to do with your immune system. White blood cells, yeah. So main body's type of immune cells. Interesting. Minor increase in mood. Rhodiola found an improvement in one uncontrolled study in people experiencing burnout, and an improvement in mood during exercise have been noted. So this lines up with my anecdotal experience where when I took rhodiola, I noticed that I had a slight increase in mood, and I just felt better, I guess, on days where normally, not that I would have felt bad per se, but I just would have been kind of exhausted. And I guess the reduction in fatigue from rhodiola helped increase my mood in some peripheral way, perhaps. A minor reduction in pain. People taking rhodiola reported general daily pain to be reduced in one study on people experiencing normal but notable stress. So I guess this was people who were reporting that they were stressed overall, but like always just kind of stressed overall, and they felt a reduction in perceived pain, I'm assuming is what this is. Minor improvement in sexual function. Rhodiola is responsible for an overall subjective ratings to be improved somewhat in one uncontrolled study of people experiencing burnout. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the same study as the last one. Rhodiola is also responsible for a minor increase in or improvement in sleep quality. This was for people who had mild anxiety. So for things like sleep quality, I wouldn't say take rhodiola to improve your sleep. I would say something probably like melatonin would be more effective for that. But it's just another one of these benefits that is being reported from an adaptogen, which is they're kind of known for having like a wide range of positive effects. Things like ashwagandha, bacopa, stuff like that. Rhodiola has a minor reduction in the symptoms of sleep deprivation as well. It says with rhodiola, there was an improvement in one study of people with mild anxiety, although it's not clear if this can be distinguished from general effects on fatigue. So I guess the idea is like you're experiencing sleep deprivation, which implies fatigue. So you take something to reduce the fatigue, and it will reduce the effects of, the symptoms of sleep deprivation. And what else do we have here? There's some other things that were studied here that they did not find any sort of improvements or like positive or negative effect. Things like carbohydrate oxidation, no effect, fat oxidation, insomnia, liver enzymes, metabolic rate. So it looks like, and also no effect on testosterone in one study. The rest of these only seem to have one or two studies. So yeah, that's rhodiola. That's the evidence from science for rhodiola, the actual effects of it. Very well studied. I'll tell you now my personal experience taking it. I don't take it right now. but I have taken it in the past. I've gone through a couple of bottles, and like I said before, the first time I tried it was when I was living in New Zealand. I was working in the mall. I had a very demanding schedule. I was working 6 days a week, and then my girlfriend I was living at the time was also working 6 days a week. We moved there to like work and save money, and then we would take one day off together, and we would spend that day together. You know, whatever, going eating lunch and watching movies and just like hanging out and just recovering from the week. So I noticed on days where I would take it, I felt much better overall. I felt mainly that I had a lot more energy. It was almost as if the exhaustion from the week just really wasn't there, and I felt an improvement in mood as well. I just felt overall better and a little bit happier. All of these other things like decrease in depression, improved sleep quality, I don't really know that I noticed those. I wasn't taking it for that purpose. I really just kind of was taking it to have more energy on my day off, and also improve my mood, because you work 6 days a week and you have one day off with your significant other, and you don't want to be grumpy or tired or unresponsive during that time. So I recommend this supplement. I think it is worth taking, just because number one, it's cheap. Number two, it's natural. Number three, there are a lot of potential benefits from it. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak. Again, like I said, you don't have to take any of this stuff. Obviously, like you can live with fatigue or depression or just being normal, I guess. But this is one of those things that I do believe there is a benefit to taking it. And for like $20 or whatever it is, it's not, you know, for 2 months or something like that. It's not a large financial investment for the potential benefits that you could receive, especially if you have the type of lifestyle that's very physically draining and you have a lot of like responsibilities, you're very busy. And even if you don't, even if you're like, no offense, if you're just sitting at home all day and doing nothing, it could be a result of you being fatigued and or depressed and being too tired and or depressed to actually get up and do stuff, I guess. So you might want to consider it for that as well. I personally recommend it. I like it. I'm not taking it right now, but I'm just taking so much other stuff that, like, I don't know, maybe I should actually buy some now that I think about it. If you guys are interested in buying it and you want to support me and you like this video, there is a link in the description where you can buy it from a website that I am working with. And if you type in the coupon code YALAPAPI10, you will get a 10% discount. That is it. Do you guys have any other recommendations for supplements, nootropics, or really anything that you want me to review and talk about? Let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.